Major Garrett, good enough to join us now from Chicago. And Major, controversy seems to find a way to stick to the Trump campaign. But with the primary in Wisconsin now just days away, what might be different here?
Well, Wisconsin has already been turning itself away from Donald Trump. That is so evident in the new Marquette poll released yesterday, and it is one of the most historically reliable polls in this state. So even before Donald Trump stepped so conspicuously and wrongly into the debate about abortion rights, saying something that no one in the pro-life community has ever said, that is, if it's illegal, the procedure of abortion, women should be punished. Even before that, in the state of Wisconsin, Trump's unfavorable rating was 70% compared to a favorable rating of 22%. That is a yawning gap between unfavorability and favorability, one that is not likely to be reversed before next Tuesday's primary. And so in the most populous parts of the state, Josh, which is around Milwaukee, the Trump numbers are bad, meaning in the most populous area where the Republican vote is likely to come in largest, Trump is running well behind Ted Cruz. So he was in trouble to begin with. And within conservative circles who take their pro-life sensibilities seriously and understand what the reason is for being opposed to abortion and what the ideas about punishment would be, historically, that's always been directed toward either doctors or medical professionals who perform abortions or clinics that allow them to be performed, never the women. That is going to be a part of the conversation. And Trump being behind even before this will certainly make that conversation more relevant and probably more damaging to Trump.
And perhaps with an eye to a general election that at one time seemed presumptive. This comment now came on the heels of his campaign manager being charged with battery for allegedly assaulting a female reporter. How much trouble is Trump in now with female voters when he was already looking at historically low numbers there?
So Trump has had a gender gap for a good long while. It has not been a damaging gender gap. That is to say, more men tend to support Trump than women. And even in states where that existed, sometimes Trump would win. But as the field has narrowed, and it's now essentially a three-person race, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and John Kasich, that becomes a bigger problem, not only within the context of Republican primaries and caucuses, but it looms much larger in a general election campaign. And one thing history has taught us, Josh, about presidential campaigns that run a very long time. Voters in primaries and caucuses tend to become more strategic as the campaign moves forward. That is to say, they think not just about the contest in front of them, but the contest that looms in the fall. And that strategic approach to voting weighs a lot of different factors, not just whether you're favorably inclined to a candidate or not, but whether that candidate can either win the nomination or succeed in November. As those kinds of strategic calculations become a bigger part of the conversation, not just in Wisconsin, but future primary and caucus states, Trump is going to have to do something to turn around this current situation.
Of course, so much did, though, depend on an impressive showing in Wisconsin for Trump. And as you mentioned, even before this happened yesterday, the gap between Trump and Ted Cruz was, in fact, widening. How then might the Cruz campaign make further use of this?
Well, look, Wisconsin is not a winner-take-all state. It is what's called a hybrid. If you win the state with a majority of vote, you get 18 delegates, and then you have to win delegates by congressional district. There are 8. You get 3 each if you win a majority in each congressional district. And I can tell you right now, Josh, the Cruz campaign is looking to win as many of those congressional districts as possible, 6, maybe 7, to deny Trump as many delegates as possible, maybe having him only in the single digits. And if you look at the mathematics for Donald Trump, coming out of Wisconsin with only 3 or maybe 6 delegates makes his overall approach to that magic number of 1237 much, much more difficult. The projections that put Trump close to that 1237 magic number all imagined him getting between 22 and 27 delegates out of Wisconsin. If he's held to the low single digits, and that is by far and away the Cruz strategy right now, his approach to the nomination becomes quite a bit more complicated.
Yeah, so the path there to 1237 narrows now by the day for Trump, and it does seem that the confluence of the anti-Trump sentiment among Wisconsin's talk radio brigade, the GOP establishment, as you mentioned, could make Wisconsin a Wisconsin result there especially harmful for Trump moving forward.
It could be a turnstile moment in which the race is different on the other side than it was going in, because Wisconsin is all by itself. Everyone's paying attention to it. And what happens in the conservative talk radio circuit in one state can sometimes replicate itself in other states. Wisconsin is not like Pennsylvania, not like New Jersey, not like Maryland, Delaware, or New York. All of those states the Trump campaign believes, generally more favorable to it. But what we've learned in this campaign is what happens in one state can have an echo effect on others. And a defeat in Wisconsin, possibly of the magnitude that the Cruz campaign hopes to achieve, and I'm not predicting that, but the trend lines in the polling data certainly suggest that's possible, could not just be a setback in one state for Trump, but it could be a larger narrative about weakness among Republicans generally, conservatives particularly, and it would complicate to a great degree his ability to say, not only am I the front runner, not only am I the big winner, but conservatives, Republicans of all kinds like me. Wisconsin could be a moment in which that whole narrative takes a turn.
We'll see a new chapter of that narrative written next Tuesday in Wisconsin. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Major Garrett, we appreciate the time today.
Thanks so much.